All right, everyone, we have a slew of pertinent news this morning. Sometimes you have to go into something that's, maybe secondary or tertiary and generally what people would consider interesting. Today's 12th update on how screwy Venezuela is. The third update on Duterte threatened somebody today. It's going to be very funny. But the first story is that the U.S. actually has now sent a delegation back to North Korea to meet regarding summit preparations. And I can't imagine how sad groups like CNN, MSNBC, NBC, the New York Times, and Atlantic, when they have to report on this sort of thing. And it's like, oh, the summit actually probably will be going forward. Remember, for about 48 hours after Trump issued his statement on Kim Jong-un insulting Mike Pence, remember, it was basically a free-for-all of rapid-fire updates. Oh, World War III is going to happen. Here's 10, analysts analyzing why Trump is inept on foreign policy. He's going to destroy our relationship with South Korea, too. They're going to end up going it alone. The U.S. will probably not be involved. We're going to piss off China. By the way, tariff wars. And it's like every single time they do this, they make a split-second decision to just bash Trump because they know, they're addicted to his tabloid crap. They know that gets ratings. That's why they keep talking that way all the time. They know that more people dislike Trump than like him. He has a core fan base that is significant, but it's smaller than the core of people who will never support him. And then you've got maybe a third of the population lumped in the middle. I see a future in which his approval is above 50% by far. But there will always be a core of people, maybe 20-30% of the population that'll never back him regardless. They're the sort of people, the low-info individuals, I guess, who are going to gobble up the New York Times, the CNN propaganda swill, and actually believe it. So it gets good ratings. If they don't bash Trump, if they use common sense and analysis, and they look at it deeper than on the most superficial level, and they say, well, maybe Trump's got it right here. His madman strategy might pay off. A lot of their readership will literally abandon them for one of the other rags that are willing to be part of that echo chamber and reinforce the preconceived notions of people who think that Trump is Hitler. You've got a situation now where they literally can't change their story up. It's hilarious because they've actually trapped themselves. It's going to take them a long time to dig their way back out of it. So the summit probably will go on, which is what I predicted, a fucking hour after Trump came out with his statement. I predicted that, Fuentes and a few others. A lot of people, including a lot of people who, again, and this happens over and over, like Trump, were like demoralized and like, oh, I guess he's part of the deep state after all. John Bolton must have gotten to him. And I'm like, no, you gotta understand a little bit about Asian culture. Did you study any of it when you were in college? Then you'd know the cultures aren't the same as here, especially North Korea. Of all places in the whole world that could be less similar to the way that we conduct our foreign policy, our diplomacy, would be North Korea. Because for more than half a century now, the only reason why the regime there has existed is by projecting power in very certain ways. Now, a lot of Western politicians, for some odd reason, they just don't understand that fact. And by the way, let's say Korea reunifies tomorrow. Let's say that President Moon walks across the border tomorrow, meeting with Kim, and says, enough is enough. Let's just be one Korea now, and we'll split governance for a while. We'll hammer everything else out later on. Enough is enough, let's have a love fest. And then they go off and they make out, and their wives are making out, and like it's a huge celebration, and Pyongyang accidentally burns to the ground because of shitty fireworks or something. Let's say that happens. The Korean leadership would still end up fundamentally doing business the same way. In fact, it might empower South Korea a little bit. Because it wouldn't just be liberals in South Korea, or conservatives as the case may be, regardless of which label you use, it wouldn't just be westernized style politics then happening. There would be a large core of the population. A minority. South Korea's got more people in it. But there would be a significant number of people, at least voting on like the provincial level. They're going to vote in people that are familiar to them culturally. A lot of those individuals, you're going to get a situation. Let me predict what would happen in the North Korean parts of a unified Korea as far as their local, the provincial leadership. You'd have two kinds of politicians surmounting all others. They wouldn't be like standard South Korean style politics the way they would do business. On the one hand, you'll have really, really young, extremely liberal reformers. will probably even consider the South Korean leadership to be too tyrannical, and they'll say, no, we should have basically, this is great, the world is so wonderful because they've been boxed in for so long. It'll be infinite optimism, infinite reform, and, basically, yes, people should do what they want. We need more internet, and we need it now because we want to play video games. Then you'll have traditionalistic North Korean style leaders who will be elected, who will be very, very staunchly opposed to most elements of that reform. They'll basically say, hey, a little reform goes a long way, and that's all you're going to have. You won't really have middle-of-the-road people, I predict, because you'll have that interplay between a young, technologically adept elite core of individuals. They do exist in North Korea. An underground market economy does apparently exist there. There is some access now to outside material, and Kim Jong-un knows this. This is probably why he's willing to negotiate and hold a summit. And then there are a lot of people on the older side that just remember, like, basically Kim's dad. And they're like, no, we don't want to be part of the wider world because it's scary. Essentially the same problem that we have here. Maybe people who are older and they're like, no, we don't need technological reform. The government should be propagandizing you like it did back in the nifty 50s, something like that. So there will be a summit, which is predicted. It might not even be pushed back substantially. They might have it on in Singapore on the planned date, actually. They could come out tomorrow and say it's back on. Or it could even happen this afternoon. That's how easy, really, it's become for Trump to conduct diplomacy in Korea. He's doing a stellar job in the Korean peninsula. He's doing a stellar job with the economy and with jobs, too. And right now, another big news story. Some of his Democratic senators are beginning to crack on DACA. If he gets that, he's got literally every fucking advantage. The Republicans, again, are starting to gain ground as we're moving perilously close to the midterms. The Democrats are in a meltdown right now. They're going to talk to their fans about how wonderful the blue wave will be and how it doesn't matter because we'll have turnout on our side. I don't know that you will. I think that you could have some problems because it looks like Trump, his long game strategy leading up to the midterms has actually paid off. His strategic patience really dealing with people who don't want to deal with him. That's about all. Peace out.